we take a stack of sources and give you the essential knowledge to be truly well-informed.
Today we're tackling American chattel slavery.
And it's a topic that's foundational, obviously, but also incredibly painful. And we're not just going to walk through a timeline.
Yeah.
We want to dissect the reality of this system, which was, well, it wasn't monolithic. We're focusing on the legal and economic structures, some really surprising paradoxes, and the incredible organized resistance that was always there, always pushing back.
And for context, I think it's really crucial to remember this story is older than we often think.
Right, we always hear 1619.
We do. 1619, Point Comfort, Virginia. That's the start of African slavery in the English colonies. But European slave labor in the Americas, that goes back way further.
You mean with the Spanish?
Exactly. The Spanish were enslaving Native American populations like the Tano people back in the early 1500s. So this system of exploitation has roots that are, over 200 years old by the time the U.S. Constitution was even written.
So that's our mission today. We're taking all these sources, legal texts, bank records, court transcripts, and we're going to try and give you a clear, structured view to handle all this information.
Moving beyond the simple narrative.
Exactly. Uncovering the facts and some really uncomfortable nuances. Okay, so let's unpack this. The ultimate example of institutionalizing inhumanity. How the political power of the brand new United States was. I mean, it was literally built on the backs of the enslaved.
You have to start with the Constitution.
You have to.
And what just jumps out from the sources is the cold calculation of the 3/5 compromise in 1787.
We hear that term all the time, 3/5 of a person. But what was the actual mechanism? What did it do?
It created power, pure political leverage. The clause said that 3/5 of the enslaved population would be counted for two things. For congressional apportionment, so how many seats you get in the House, and for federal taxation.
So it immediately inflated the political influence of the southern states.
Massively. They got more seats in the House, which meant more power in the Electoral College, all without granting a single political right to the people they were counting.
And how big of an impact did that actually have? I mean, when you look at the historical consequences.
Oh, it was fundamental. Historians have looked at this really closely. Take the 1800 election.
Jefferson versus Adams.
A brutal election. And it almost certainly would have gone the other way, to Adams, if it weren't for those extra electoral votes the South got from the compromise.
Wow. So the system tipped the balance of national leadership right from the very start.
It did. And it gets even worse. Think about the Indian Removal Act.
Forcibly relocating Native American tribes.
A hugely contentious bill. It passed the House by an incredibly narrow margin. And historians widely speculate it would not have passed at all without the votes created by the 3/5 compromise.
The cruelty of that is just staggering. You're using the existence of one enslaved group to enable the seizure of land from another group.
And James Madison, who was arguing for the clause, he basically admitted it. He said the clause exploited the enslaved person's humanity, their personhood, for the enslaver's political gain.
So they were people enough to give white men more power.
But property in every other legal sense.
That political math then sets the stage for a huge economic shift, right? By 1808, the international slave trade was closed.
Legally, yes. But that didn't stop slavery.
It just turned it into a domestic business.
And this is where it gets really interesting economically. It supercharged the internal slave trade.
An internal market for human beings.
Yes, and it restructured the entire economy, especially in the Upper South, Virginia, Maryland, and Kentucky.
So how does a state like Kentucky, which isn't, a big cotton state, how does it become a major player?
Kentucky, and especially a city like Lexington, became a critical node in that network. A breeding and supply center, essentially. The wealth of the planters there relied less on what they grew and more on exporting people down to the Deep South for the big cotton and sugar plantations.
Wait, I want to stop on that. The idea that a human being was a better financial asset than the land they worked.
Now, that's the profound shift. In the antebellum of the Upper South, the sources are clear. Enslaved people were often more valuable than the land itself. They weren't just labor, they were capital.
Investment capital.
Exactly. Families would literally bank on the increase, meaning the birth of children, from their enslaved population. They were calculating the value of these children years down the line.
So selling people.
Yeah.
Selling children. That just became a normal way to finance your life. To pay for college for your own kids or pay off a debt.
It was common. The human being was liquidated like a financial product. We see it in banking ledgers, in estate settlements. This system, this tearing apart of families, It wasn't some unfortunate side effect.
It was the engine.
It was the essential stabilizing mechanism of the entire Southern economy.
Okay, now we have to step into one of the most, I think, challenging historical nuances, something that really resists any simple moral box, the paradox of free people of color owning slaves. This was a real thing happening between, 1780 and 1861.
It was a real thing. Thousands of free black people held other black people as slaves. And their motivations are, well, they're absolutely key to understanding that this system wasn't monolithic.
So what were the different motivations? Because on the surface, it seems like a massive contradiction.
Well, scholars are kind of split on it. There are two main schools of thought. The first is the benevolent interpretation, meaning they were would-be emancipators. They were often buying their own family members, a spouse, a child, a sibling, to protect them from being sold away by a white master. The goal was to eventually, privately emancipate them.
So, using the system to try and shield your loved ones, a desperate act.
It could be, but the sources also point to a much, much darker reality, the exploitative interpretation.
Exactly. And it's strongly supported by the data. Many black masters were using enslaved people for pure commercial gain, treating them just as harshly as white slaveholders. Harsh discipline, renting them out, selling them for profit. And the data you found. What was most surprising about who owned whom?
The demographic breakdown it's pretty telling. One study suggests that over 83% of black masters were mulattoes.
Okay.
And 90% of the slaves they owned were of darker skin.
So there was a pigmentocracy at play, a hierarchy based on skin color, even within the free black community.
It suggests that, right? That often, this wasn't about saving family, it was commercial enterprise, exploiting another group based on color. It was about climbing the economic ladder inside the system.
And some of them became incredibly wealthy doing it.
Immensely. You have the Metoyer family in Louisiana.
Yeah.
They became the largest African-American slaveholding family in the country. They owned about 500 slaves, 20,000 acres of land.
Wow.
Or a guy like Antoine Dubuclet, a sugar planter, over 100 slaves. His estate was valued at $250,000. Fortune. It's a hard truth that the pursuit of power and profit could transcend racial lines, even in that system.
So let's pivot now to the agency of the enslaved people themselves. Because the slaveholding class, they relied on this idea of paternalism.
Oh, desperately. This idea that they were caring for their slaves.
It let them sleep at night.
It let them see themselves as moral human beings, which is why the records show them feeling genuinely shocked, personally betrayed, when someone ran away.
But resistance was constant. It wasn't just big revolts.
No, it was constant. Day-to-day things like slowing down work, playing sick. What we want to focus on here is the violent, calculated resistance, the kind that shows true agency.
And the sources reveal this deep, culturally informed way of fighting back. Let's talk about one of the most covert forms, poisoning. Why was that so terrifying to them?
Because it was untraceable, intimate. It could come from the kitchen, from the most trusted person in the house. But to really understand the agency behind it, we have to change our framework.
What do you mean?
Well, Western law just sees it as murder. Simple. But if you look at it through an Africana legal studies approach, you can see it as African protocol.
African protocol, what does that mean?
It's tied to the cultural logic of groups like the Erokhane people, who were brought to Maryland and Virginia in large numbers. In their worldview, governance, religion, justice, it was all tied together.
Okay.
They believed certain divine entities, these apropos, sort of like executioners, could be called upon through substances, through poisons or ordeal drafts. It was a way to enact justice where the European legal system gave them none.
So it's not a crime, it's a spiritual or cultural act of justice.
It can be seen that way.
Yeah.
And the colonial records show how terrified they were of it. Court records from Maryland in the 1750s and 60s are filled with trials of enslaved people, not just for poisoning, but for consulting, advising, or conspiring to poison.
The conspiracy part is what scared them, the organization.
Exactly. And at the center of this were often figures known as conjurers or herb doctors. These people held immense power. They were the bridge between the physical and spiritual worlds. There's this story of a woman named Eliza Foote. She was accused of voodooism for giving another slave a bag with a stone and some roots in it.
And what did she say it would do?
She said it gave him power over all with whom it came in contact.
That psychological power, it's incredible how that translates into real physical defiance.
It's the ultimate expression of agency, I mean, think of Frederick Douglass.
The story about the root.
Yes. He's being brutalized by this overseer, Covey, the slave breaker. And an older enslaved man, Sandy Jenkins, gives him this certain root, tells him to carry it on his right side, and Covey will never be able to whip him again.
And what happens?
Douglas carries the root. The next time Covey tries to assault him, Douglas fights back. He fights him to a draw. Draws blood.
So whether the root itself had power or not.
The belief in its power, the cultural protocol, it gave Douglas the psychological armor he needed to physically defy the system.
Let's move from that covert resistance to more organized collective acts, the kind of thing that sent shockwaves through the entire plantation society.
These are the stories the planters tried to suppress. They dismiss it as chaos, but the sources show intelligent collective planning. Take the Oakmont fire in Louisiana.
What happened there?
In one night, 147 enslaved people just vanished.
All at once.
All at once. A coordinated mass escape. And they left the plantation burning behind them. The flames were so high they could be seen across the river.
Oh my God. So that wasn't just running away, that was a statement.
It was a collective choice. They destroyed the capital that held them. They let the property burn. That event sent such fear through Louisiana that insurance rates for plantations reportedly tripled almost overnight.
And then there's the story of Nathan Crowley, the overseer. That one is just chilling.
Incredibly precise and lethal. This was in 1848. Crowley was famously brutal, and the field hands coordinated to bury him alive up to his neck.
How did they even do that?
They used their farm tools. They buried him slowly, carefully, while the cotton harvest continued around him as if nothing was wrong. They finished the job right as the bell was set to ring, so no one saw them lingering.
And when the authorities came looking?
Nothing. No weapons, no witnesses, no sign of freshly dug earth. It was a perfect, evidence-free conspiracy, and it shattered the planters' belief that enslaved people were incapable of that kind of high-level, organized, lethal action.
And finally, we have to talk about the limits of the law. Through the tragic case of Celia, Missouri, 1855.
Celia's story. It's a profound legal tragedy. She killed her master, Robert Newsom, after years and years of sexual abuse. Then she burned his body in her fireplace.
And the sources say she was in such a state of terror that she had his own 12-year-old grandson clean the ashes out the next morning.
Yes. The horror is just unimaginable. But the legal tragedy is what happened in court. Her defense argued self-defense.
Which seems obvious.
But the court ruled that an enslaved woman could not be raped by her master. Because under the law, a master had free and open access to her body. She was property. And property cannot legally resist its owner.
So her execution wasn't just about the act of killing?
No. It was about preserving the system. This was during Bleeding Kansas, a time of extreme fear of slave insurrection. To let a slave go free after killing her master, it was seen as too dangerous a precedent. The whole system couldn't tolerate it. So when you synthesize all of this, the Constitution, the resistance, the court cases, it becomes undeniable. You just can't see slavery as one single monolithic thing.
Right.
Yes, it was defined everywhere by brutality, by this social death, this genealogical isolation, the constant threat of having your children taken away.
But its practice varied so much. Antebellum Mississippi was not colonial Massachusetts. The U.S. system was not the Jamaican system.
And the sources just scream with the agency of the enslaved. They were never passive. They were strategizing, organizing, fighting back, with poison, with fire, with whatever they had.
And the fact that these acts were erased from official records, just written down as property loss or a crime, that doesn't mean they didn't happen.
Not at all. The stories persist in oral traditions, in inherited trauma, descendants who have this unexplained aversion to certain things like working in kitchens.
The complexity of black masters, the coordination of the Oakmont escape, the Aiken Protocol, they all show that enslaved people were active agents in their own lives.
History is full of beginnings, and the present can be one too, when we really choose to see this full, complicated picture.
And so we'll leave you with this final thought to consider. If the entire foundation of American chattel slavery was built on the deliberate denial of humanity and agency of the enslaved for political and economic gain,
how many systems of injustice today continue to operate successfully only because they rely on that same denial, that same minimization of the full human agency of the people they exploit? Something to think about long after this deep dive is over.